Previously on Talk Time Live exclusive.
We can't talk about this without talking about the big news that came this year at San Diego Comic-Con at Hall H. One of the biggest news to come was Dragon Ball Super Broly.
Right.
We actually got the reveal because they teased it a while back. You know, they teased it, let us know that there was another movie coming. Not only was this canon to the actual show, but they didn't reveal who this person was. And lo and behold, it's Broly. So
yeah,
he's making a return.
Yes. Well, you know what? I gotta tell you, Dak.
Yeah.
I've been waiting and hoping for years that our beloved Super Saiyan Broly would come into the Prime universe.
Right.
I've played Broly. I don't know if you've done the math, but I've played Broly 15 years.
Yep. Including games.
Oh yeah, 15 years. That's 3 movies. And 13 video games. Somebody at Funimation told me 13 video games. I've been yelling Kakarot for 15 years, and I've always been hoping that maybe someday, they would bring him into the Prime universe. Right. And I'm so excited they are.
It's time. Talk time. Let's go. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live. Started in the 80s with Matt Cross. Dudes in the hood might have called that soft, but I carried that cross like Jesus did. Fast forward, I teach the kids to learn how to let go, live life, and show love to all things that don't matter where y'all from. And luckily there's a show called Talk Time. We've been waiting for this for a long time. Dax kicks the facts on all the geek news, special guests and unbiased reviews. Suburban kids, the hipster street dudes, all can learn something new. Me too. I heard words with no faith is empty. I stayed the course so my haters tempt me. Beat the podcast, that'll make them envy. It ain't too trendy, it's A.C.M.G. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live.
Gentlemen, welcome back. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the Prime Show. I am your host, Xavier Josiah. Folks, we are back to talk more about our favorite fandoms, and particularly, we are here to talk about 2 movie reviews this week. We're keeping it going. There's so much information that I had to do this week, as you know, if you've been following, that I had to stretch it all out. Punisher will be tomorrow. That'll be another podcast, and then we'll just continue it normally how it is, because there shouldn't be any more epic anything going on in 1 week like it did this week. So this week, we're going to review 2 movies, one of which is M. Night Shyamalan's conclusion to the 3-part series that is Unbreakable, Split, and now we have Glass. How did it fare? Did it give us the grand conclusion that we were looking for? What surprises did it provide us this time around? Will it be another one? We'll talk about all that and more in our talk topic. Not only will we talk about that movie, we're going to talk about, if you heard the previous intro soundbite to this show, you heard myself and Vic Mignogna, the voice of none other than Broly, the main bad guy, one of the main bad guys of Dragon Ball Super Broly, which premiered on the 16th and is met with much critical acclaim, and also breaking records on its own. So we're going to talk about that, see how it fared up, and whether it met our expectations and more and whatnot. There's so much to talk about in both films. I don't even want to waste any time now. We also got some news to talk about in our next segment, so let's not waste any time, people. Without further ado, let's find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
And now, it's time to find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
All right, folks, I'm going to start off with a rumor based on the New Mutants movie that's supposed to be coming out this year. According to HeroicHollywood.com, which they do note right now, it's a rumor, that the New Mutants movie may be still pending in delay further decision to actually bring it to Hulu. Now, the original set for this movie, if you guys saw the trailer back then, it was set for April of this year. And apparently it's been said, again, rumors, that delay in the movie are the result of reshoots that they're trying to do to give it a little bit more of a horror movie feel. Other rumors also are claiming that they want to add more characters, including Daphne Keane, who you guys remember from Logan. She played X-23. It was kind of one of the pivotal character roles in that movie. And the delay may result in the movie becoming available for streaming at Hulu, just because they're doing reshoots. If they have to do any more reshoots, then the possibility is that Hulu may get the rights to put it on their streaming network, because I guess the budget would probably be too high and they wouldn't be able to distribute it out as much. Or I'm not sure. But again, this is all rumor. If that is the case, I don't mind it. I would love to see that movie in the theaters. But come on, look, Bird Box made a killing review on and views on Netflix. So, and House of Cards and all those other places. I mean, The Runaways are on Hulu right now. I mean, it's just so much. I think they could get away with it. I think people will actually jump on it. It'll be a reason for them to jump on it, especially if the movie is actually good. So if that is the case, if that is true, I wouldn't mind that at all. I would love to see that. And of course, getting a chance to watch a movie in the comfort of my own home, it's always a plus. You can always order out and have it, all at the seat of my chair. So I'm all good with that. So let's see what happens. But hopefully we'll get to see this movie out this year. And I remember watching the trailer from way back, and it feels like a long time ago now because I haven't seen anything from that movie since. But it furthers kind of the situation of what's going on with 20th Century Fox and, the negotiations. So I don't know what's going on and how's that configuring into all that. But, having these delays and the reshoots and everything never makes any studio look good at all when you got to do stuff like that. And sometimes it's warranted. Sometimes, you got to add it on. Like when Sony decided to agree to add Spider-Man onto Civil War, it took a little bit longer for things to happen. They had to delay Black Panther, in order to get that Spider-Man movie out. That's okay, because we know we're getting something greater. Fox's track record has been fairly good, but not all good, of course, as you know. I mean, they've done some really good stuff. The first X-Men, everybody loved. The second X-Men, everybody loved. The third X-Men, there's only a extremely minority rare group of people that like that movie. Wolverine Origin also didn't play a factor either. I mean, Deadpool was the one that really kind of brought it back, as well as Days of Future Past. So, I mean, when you look back at their record of things, it's not, their win-loss record isn't that bad. Because they had, 3 really screwed up, but I think everybody always put, the proverbial negative umbrella of that movie over the head of the studio. And everything else, it's imprinted in people's mind negatively to make it seem like everything else is going to fail. But no, Deadpool 1 and 2 was phenomenal. Days of Future Past was critically acclaimed. Apocalypse, it's a mixed bag. There are people who like it and there are people who don't. So, I mean, their win-loss record is not, it's more good than bad if you look back at it. But, it is what it is with that one. So we'll see. I'm looking for it. And The Gifted is actually really, really good. So we'll see how that goes from there. And if anything comes up and develops, we'll be talking about it, definitely. Interesting news from the world of the DCW universe, or the Arrowverse is what some people like to call it. Arrow will be doing an inspired episode based on the Birds of Prey. If you guys don't remember the Birds of Prey, there was a TV show that came out on the WB or UPN at the time? I think it might have been UPN at the time when it came out, or the WB network for that matter, if I'm correct. So they're doing a inspired episode of that, and Birds of Prey are like 3 female characters in the comics. One of them is supposed to be, I believe, Huntress. The other one is, I forgot who the other one was. Could be Black Canary, and then the other one was Barbara Gordon, who at the time she was Oracle. So she was the person on the computer at that point. and at the desktop and everything, and in the Batcave, helping monitor those two fight crime. So they did a version of this on the WB network ages ago, which I believe you could watch on the CW Seed. It's available there for free, and I believe it's on the DC Universe app, if I remember correctly. It's on there too, so you guys can check it out. It was actually a pretty good series. People actually liked it. You know what's really funny? It was also on the DC Universe app when I saw it. The Adventures of Superboy. I recently watched an episode of that real quick, and it didn't age well at all. The acting is actually quite terrible, but the intro is still really great. But I was really amazed, like, wow, this did not go well. Like, the acting is absolutely deplorable. It was just like a low budget daytime Saturday afternoon TV show that they used to play after the cartoons were over. So I never dawned on me that this was really terrible acting and compared to what's today's. On the other hand, I did see Aquaman pilot, which was actually really good, and I really wish that they continued off with it. It was the guy who played Green Lantern on Smallville was actually played the role of Arthur. So that was the one thing right there. But I digress. And this one, in Arrow, Katie Cassidy's role as Laura Lance, I believe, will be involved in this, along with a few other names, which they have not revealed. But chances are, a lot of people are aiming at Huntress and Sarah to make their return to do this episode. And also, you have Felicity, who is now Overwatch, and is the one that's really overseeing everything in the Arrow Cave or whatever, whatever she goes to do it. Or I believe they have a company now with her and Curtis, but also I can see her being the Oracle of the bunch in that episode too. So it'll be interesting. I mean, Arrow's been really good this year. I think it made a great comeback, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the second half of the season is going to come through, which I believe is tomorrow. Arrow and now Black Lightning will be premiering tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. We'll see how that goes. Supergirl, on the other hand, premieres tonight on the CW, and which I believe is one of the best. It's the best of the bunch because of their storyline right now with Agent Liberty and such, and the storyline that they're doing right now is amazing. Well, they're taking stands and making steps, as they always do on this show. This time around, the character that they have in here, played by Nicole Maines, and I believe her name is Nia, if I'm correct. She's playing the first ever transgender character in a DC series, or if I'm correct, maybe in a series, period. But she's also going to be the first now major superhero, transgender superhero in the series, which will now be known as the Dreamer. If you've been watching the series, her character has been having headaches lately, and I guess her meta powers is actually starting to come in. She may be actually having something with Brainiac as well, so that's going to be an interesting thing. But she's going to have the power of clairvoyancy, which allows her to see the future beforehand, or events happen beforehand. So that's going to be interesting in play as to what's going to happen in that deal. But if you saw pictures, there are pictures online right now that shows her with the costume. Actually, it's a really, really cool suit. I love the design of the suit. She got the face mask and everything on there, so it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. But I also like the fact that they're taking stands and embracing everybody. Because if it's just stories about normal people and everyday people that we've known for forever, it becomes stagnant and stale. Being able to embrace different cultures and different ethnicities and personalities and identities, it opens the door for so much more story in this deal. And I commend them all for doing this. This is absolutely awesome. If people don't know, Nicole Maines is an actress. Like real life, she's transgender, and she's been battling a lot of things going on throughout her life. And I believe there was one really interesting court case that she was involved in when it came to her wanting to use because she chose her gender identity, she wanted to use the ladies' bathroom, and they wouldn't allow her to, and it sparked a huge amount of controversy for that. So it was very interesting to see that going on. But she's battled through it throughout her entire teenhood, and now to see everything, people are supporting her and embracing it is really awesome. We need to start doing it more often because we've been doing it the other way for so long, and it's only brought chaos and a lot of bad situations in this. So let's try going it the other way, see what happens. And right now, changes happen, and change is continuing to happen, and it needs to continue to happen like this. So I'm looking forward to seeing this, and the show's been great. It comes on tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so definitely go out of your way to check it out for that and much more. Here's another situation. We talked about this on the last episode, I believe, about the third reboot of Ghostbusters, or was it the Turtles? It was one of them, but Ghostbusters is also being, we did talk about that too. Ghostbusters is also being rebooted as well, and that's been talked about lately this week. SNL star Leslie Jones, who was in the female reboot of the movie, as you can possibly understand, is pissed off about the decision to reboot it again. And she, at the time, let nothing go. She went full blast on Twitter to talk about it. Now, interestingly, I went into her Twitter page after seeing this on an article at comicbook.com, and it's not there anymore. So I don't know if she took it down or what's going to happen and whatnot, but she was going on to say, like, it's so insulting, like, F us. I'm not going to use the sort of word, but just like, F us, we didn't count. It's like something Trump would do in Trump voice. Going to redo the Ghostbusters. better with men. We'll be huge. Those women Ghostbusters. So annoying. Such a dick move. And I don't give a F. I'm saying something. So it got out there, and I think she took it down, but it's still, people were able to still print it out. I'm not sure. I couldn't find it on there, but understandably so. I can see how all of them would be upset. Everybody involved. I mean, again, I said this before. I had no problem with that movie. The only reason why I felt people had a problem with that movie was because, one, most of them were men, and they like to see what they did. And again, this is the one-dimensional mentality kicking in. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before, but I got into this debate with the guy on our A.C.M.G. Facebook group about this, and his reasons weren't really reasons. He wanted to hate him just to hate him, and it was just stupidity at its best. And I knew. So, and even furthermore, I really cracked up to the fact that he said, I didn't want to see all those SNL people on a Ghostbusters movie, when in fact Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray are the original people from SNL, and they were in that movie. So it just, his argument just didn't stand at all on that note. And it just felt like it was more or less and I want to say it because he didn't really say it, but just reading off it just came off a little bit chauvinistic and sexist on his behalf. So it was like, no, I watched the movie. I absolutely love everybody's role in it. I love that they made Chris Hemsworth the receptionist up there. I used to be one myself, so I had no problem with that. There was no beef. And it was funny. It was just as funny to me as the original ones, because the original ones weren't a Oscar-winning movie anyway. It was just a fun movie. This was a fun, updated movie. No different. I don't understand people trying to make the original Ghostbusters a Oscar-winning SAG Award, Golden Globe Award winning movie. It was not. It was just a very popular box office smash movie that people all loved and cherished and remember. It was original. And the only reason why people are hating that in like Ocean's 8 was strictly because it was just female based. And that's just stupid and wrong. And we're going to look at this years from now. I pray that we look at this years from now and realize the stupidity that we have, because we'll hopefully assimilate into the mindset and condition ourselves into the mindset of anybody can be anything they want to be. Hopefully, crossing fingers on that. So I don't know, man. I really don't know. I'm not digging this direction either. because I don't think that the women had a fair chance. And I think the reason why they had such a poor box office smash is because of that mentality. And when that movie came out, it was right, I believe it was right before the movement kicked in. It was just a shy away from when the movement kicked in. I think if it would have came out now, I think that movie would have made much more money and acclaim, because now people are starting to open up to the idea that women can be whatever. And they're opening up to the idea, and they're breaking that mentality that women aren't just for what we want them to be. It's what they want to be. And with that said, I really, it's a shame. It's a shame. Like, we're still fighting. There's still a tug of war of acceptance and refusal. I don't know who's going to win this, but somebody's going to have to let go. Somebody's going to have to let go, and it can't be evolution. Okay. So, folks, that is all I'm going to talk about right now. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of news to talk about, and I'll add that on to whatever comes tomorrow with our Punisher podcast. But for now, we're going to take a break, come back, and review both Glass and Dragon Ball Super Broly. We'll do that right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Xavier Josiah, the host of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the podcast. You want to catch up with all of our podcast shows and hear from some of the hottest names in all of anime, comics, movies, and games, such as...
This is Miley Flanagan, the voice of Naruto.
This is Stephanie Shea, the voice of Sailor Moon.
This is Ruben Langdon, voice of Ken Masters and Dante from Devil May Cry.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter V.
This is Chris Battle, character designer of Teen Titans Go.
Here's your chance to check out all of that and more on TalkTimeLive.com. TalkTimeLive.com provides all of our ACMG content with new and previous episodes, exclusive interviews, articles, and much more. Visit TalkTimeLive.com and let us help you learn to let go, live life, and love all things ACMG.
Talk Time Live.
Hi, everybody. This is Vic Mignogna, Broly from Dragon Ball Z, Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist, and this is ACMG Presents Talk Time Live.
Do it.
And now it's time for our talk topic of the week. Ready? Fight!
All right, folks, we are back with our talk topic of the week, and it is our review of Glass and Dragon Ball Super Broly. I can't tell you how excited I am to do these two movies. I enjoyed both of them immensely, and I gotta say, man, this has been a great week, a great birthday week for me. Alone with just watching these two movies, it's just absolutely amazing to get a chance to see it. But not only that, along with the upside, I get to see two movies that were filmed in Philadelphia. So I absolutely enjoyed myself this week getting a chance to see all of this. But Glass, we're going to talk about that first before we get to my other favorite movie going on. And Glass, I thought they did a great job. I thought that this movie absolutely, I had no problems with the way that this movie went, and the way the character direction went, and the way the story went. Now, funny thing about this is that M. Night Shamylan was on Good Morning America, and he claimed that they weren't going to do another movie. Yet, if you saw this movie, it left you kind of open-ended with some new developments and some surprises at the end, which is something that he normally do. This time around, his surprises worked, much like it did with Split, and it left it open for something else to come if he so wanted to, but not a definite. And I like the way he went about that and did that. So let's talk about this for a minute. This movie was, I believe from what I remember, it said 3 weeks after, or Joseph said it was 3 weeks after the events of Split, when Kevin Wendell Crumb abducted the kids, with the exception of Casey Cook, and because she was, in his words, pure. So David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis, actually is on a hunt for these guys, along with his son Joseph, who played by once again by Spencer Treat Clark, which did not put two and two together on this. As I was watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and there was always the season where the Von Strucker son comes in, and he's almost, they're training him and grooming him to become the new Von Strucker and the head of Hydra. I had no idea that that was the same kid from Unbreakable. And because he's older now, so I didn't put two and two together. But as I looked at the movie, the first time they even showed his face, I'm like, I immediately recognized him from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then thought like, oh my God, is he the original kid from? Yeah, and in fact he is. So I was really amazed by that. But now Joseph is teaming up with his father to fight crime. They're also looking for Kevin Wendell Crumble, aka Split, now known as the Horde. Now, here's the other thing, too, that was so cool that I liked about this. Now, this is the conclusion, and now all of these guys have sort of superhero names. David Dunn has been called the Overseer by the media. So now he has a name, and now Kevin William Crumb considers himself the Horde because of his multiple personalities, and they're all teaming up together and communicating with each other. So when they go into the light, which is them coming in, which I love that, by the way. I love the way they did that. Whenever any of the personalities or identities go into the light, that's them becoming that character. So I like the way that they put that together. So basically the Horde, I'm going to start calling them that to some extent. The Horde pretty much abducted yet 4 new cheerleaders, and Dunn is trying to look for them. He's going all around and bumping into people to see if, as you remember, he has the power to, to pretty much see people's thoughts and where things are at. And he managed to find Kevin William Crumb when he bumped into him, and when he was in kid mode. He was the 8-year-old, the forever 8-year-old kid in the movie, and he found him. He managed to find him. He managed to find the cheerleaders, and Dunn and the Horde's interaction led to their capture at the hands of Dr. Eli Staple, played by Sarah Paulson. This is a very interesting character in this movie. If you haven't seen this movie, I'm going to say a lot about this movie, so I am telling you now, both movies are going to be big spoiler alerts. This more than Dragon Ball, because Dragon Ball was just like a one-timer type of thing, so this really has some spoiler elements that if you haven't seen it, go see it first. Otherwise, if you just don't care, I'm about to go at it right now. So Dr. Staple claims that she's a specialist with, and I noticed I said the word claims. Dr. Staples claims that she's a specialist with patients who have delusions of grandeur and cognitive disorders, most of which who believe that they have special abilities and consider themselves superhuman. Meanwhile, Cassie Cook, who played in Split as star Anna Taylor-Joy, is back. She is told by the authorities that they apprehended Kevin Wendell Crumb, which instead of not only being happy, but she actually was interested in seeing him. I think she somehow found a connection to Kevin when she did, and maybe possibly can help. So, meanwhile, a new structure in Philadelphia, and if you're in Philadelphia, you're going to love this. A new structure in Philadelphia known as the Osaka Building, which looks right down in Center City near the Liberty Place buildings, right next to the Comcast, and it's supposed to be bigger than the Comcast building, is the plot of Mr. Glass, which him and Crumb are now known as the Broken, which is awesome. The Glass, Mr. Glass is like plotting to want to destroy it in order to let the world know that superhumans exist. To do this, he discovers that the Horde is the key to his plans of leading to them team and led them to a team up and let them be known as the Broken. So I love the way this direction was going on at this point. Glass also attempts to have Dunn prove that he is also superhuman in order to stop them from completing the plans. Now, here's the situation. That happened because Dr. Staple is trying to convince them that they're not actually superhuman, but just certain anomalies just happen, throughout their life that makes them think it, and psychologically imprinted that they have a tumor of some sorts in their head that she's looking to try to take out. This leads into something way deeper at the beginning. So some of the favorite moments I had was that, and we're going to talk about that. Dr. Staple, at the Raven Institute, I forgot what it was fully named, but it was the Raven Mental Institute, for that matter, and how she questioned him. So when she was questioning him as to whether they thought they really had powers, or was it something was it some cognitive delusion of grandeur that made them think that, or was it a tumor? Especially for Dunn, because he was the only one that survived the accident in there, which of course was set up by Mr. Glass. And, wondering if they all were just thinking that or were they actually real in it, but she was trying to put words into their mouth. And Dunn caught on to that. So it was very interesting there. But also, the audience, as you got to imagine, for some, the audience is like, okay, this is the part when they're trying to, throw us through the hoops here and make it seem like, okay, how it is going to end. Is it going to end with them saying that they really don't have powers, or do they really have powers? So it's kind of putting you in the gray here with that situation. I really appreciated that little tangle right there. Other things that I really favor moments there, just seeing parts of Philly always, seeing the pride of your hometown being represented in such a film is really awesome. And some of your best representatives, including Yuki Washington, who many don't know. He was the anchorman. If you're not from Philly, you don't know this, but the anchorman that was in this movie, and he was also on Split. I don't know what relationship he has with M. Night Shyamalan, but he's always the anchorman that is on it. He's actually in fact, a real anchorman. He works for CBS 10 here in Philadelphia. He's been doing it. He's been in news for years. I mean, local news for years here in Philadelphia. He's not only that, he's even spoke at my graduation, my junior high graduation. I remember that absolutely, because his speech was, he took references from soap operas. And remember, it's junior high, so this is like way back in the 80s. So soap operas was a thing back then. But he took a lot of references from soap operas to get his point across as to how we need to evolve and move on and get our, and achieve in life. It was really awesome. And well deserved. I mean, he's always been a good dude, to everybody around. And to see him in this movie, he is a kind of a staple here in Philly. He's always has been, and it's pretty cool to see that he gets celebrated like that as a symbol of one of the symbols of Philadelphia. It's really cool. So another thing that was really cool, seeing M. Night Shyamalan make his cameo as a security guard. So I don't think I remember ever seeing him, or I just didn't pay attention, or I never actually saw what he looked like at the time. If he ever made cameos on his other movies. Never really noticed that. So that was also cool. And for God's sakes, this is probably the best thing in this all. Anything James McAvey done in this movie, by far, was the best thing about this movie. He was, in fact, the MVP, and this dude he's now on my list for one of my favorite actors, top 10 favorite actors. James McAvey, for him to do these roles, and I think he did less than he did last time, but it's still more than what almost any other person can possibly do, let alone an actor can actually do. And amazing. He absolutely amazing for him to do. Not only that, I think what it was different last time is that he was able, on Split, he was able to play each character, each of the 25 characters, I believe, one by one, and never had to change up. Difference here in this movie is that he was just switching different characters every single time the lights flashed, or one of the other identities wanted to come into the light. And it was amazing that he was just, it felt like somebody just taking a remote control and flicking to channels in rapid speed, and he just changing different personalities or channels within himself. That is astounding. He was the most entertaining. I mean, everybody was great in the movie, but you can't deny that James McAvey role as Kevin Wendell Crumb was outstanding in this movie, man. I absolutely, just undeniably his role in this movie was amazing. Not only that, seeing all three movies connect with the open-ended possibility of another film in the future. Again, the film ended basically where we find out Dr. Staples is not who she really truly says she is. In fact, she's working for a secret organization. We're going to say secret, not evil, but secret organization that might as well be evil. That's been around for over 10,000 years, and it follows by the fact that they have this symbol, this insignia of a 3-leaf clover in their arms. And you saw the security guard, the SWAT team with it. You saw her with it. And when she touched Dunn before he unfortunately died, all three of them died, by the way, in this movie. And the idea was it not for them to start their journey, it was to start the origin of many more. And that was the real true plan of Mr. Glass, at least for this movie. But it was really amazing that now that we have this insane twist of, oh my God, there's a now evil organization out. And the reason for this organization was to eliminate all of these potential superhuman threats that are coming. And they would travel to city, you know, and the organization is insanely huge. It's like this is their Hydra. They go from city to city to find new potential, you know, superhumans that may have this ability and take them out in such a way. And that's exactly what Dr. Staple did here with Dunn and Crumb and Elijah. And mission accomplished, but not before Elijah was smart enough to have a plan of action, because somehow, some way he knew of this whole entire thing, and he found a way to have a backup plan in case, or he had this plan all along knowing that he was going to die. So mission accomplished on that, which also leads me to wonder about Mr. Glass's true plot. You know, we saw him as the villain in Unbreakable, and we see him the villain here. And granted, he is still a villain because he killed a mass amount of people in that train to, you know, for just to complete one situation that was to show that Dunn was actually a superhero. So for that, he had to sacrifice a bunch of people. But in hindsight, we have him bringing awareness to superhumans by sending video footage to private accounts of Joseph, Casey, and his mother, which they would then upload on YouTube and everything, and it would go completely viral around the city of Philadelphia. And now people were able to see all the footage of the fight scenes that they had of them doing superhuman feats in there, even though after they did, and now they're being investigated. So now just all types of stuff is going on. They brought awareness to it, and now all superhumans are going to come out, and now we're creating an actual universe within itself. So this is the part when I was saying at any time, M. Night Shyamalan, if he ever wanted to, can go right back in there, create brand new characters, create a brand new story, and go it. There was no real close to this movie. So that part I really enjoy. He says no, but we can see it. If he really wanted to, we can see it. Or if anybody wanted to do it, they can do it. You know, he just left it open, and I love that he did that. There's so much more you could do with this franchise, or it could be a franchise at this point, but at this time, it's a trilogy. So, with that said, it was very interesting. I really appreciated the movie. I enjoyed it for what it was. Is it the best superhero movie or comic book based movie I've ever seen? No, but not by far. But considering this M. Night Shyamalan, he's gotten himself way back into the swing of things of what he was doing before. And from start to finish, I had a smile on my face. I really enjoyed everything. It wasn't too hard to think. It wasn't too easy to think. It was just enjoyable. We got our A.C.M.G. Facebook members that saw it, and people liked it. They enjoyed it. There was only one person who had a really negative review, but he was critiquing it from a directorial type of way, and it was one of those type of things where it goes over it's one of those things like, I'm an artist. If I draw something, sometimes it may be something that only another artist will be able to detect or see, but for those who are looking at it from a naked eye, you won't be able to detect. So overall, if it's not that blatant that the person who's watching from a naked eye can actually see it, it's not all that bad. There was no loss of logic, in my opinion, in this movie that I felt that had me stopping, like, questioning myself. Because I've been to movies where I did that. This was not one of them by any stretch, not from start to finish. So, I honestly, I don't know. I can definitely say I give this movie a B+. I mean, I've seen better superhero movies, and I don't want to compare this to like anything that Marvel has done or any of those other things. But for this being an original concept, I absolutely enjoyed it, and I just hope that he continues on, or let somebody else continue on, let somebody else write it and do it, and he produce it or whatever like that. So if you haven't seen it, go out of your way to see Glass. I will say, don't go see Glass until you've seen the other two. If you haven't seen the other two, and don't feel like you're out of the loop. I talked to somebody in the group that felt like they were out of the loop. I had to tell you, I just watched Split a couple weeks ago prior to me going to see this movie, and was blown away by it. So I was like, no, sometimes it's better late than never. I mean, you can't let your life be determined by what other people are going to think. Do you? I watched Breaking Bad late as hell and still enjoyed it just as much. So much as long as nobody ever actually spoiled it for me, and I would have had to kick the bone out of the neck from there. So go out of your way to check it out. If you haven't seen it yet, it's awesome. You'll enjoy it. Just enjoy it for what it is. Don't try to make anything else out of it than what it is. And I believe you'll enjoy it right there. So let's get into the other one. Dragon Ball Super Broly. The much anticipated anime movie that has, in my opinion, stepped up everything. This is the movie that is going to inherit a bunch of other anime movies to come into theaters. And hopefully from this point, we'll see it in more theaters and more. Because, one, this movie has become officially certified fresh in Rotten Tomatoes. Two, it has now made a record, the highest record of box office grossing of $7 million, which was like way more than what Resurrection X and Battle of the Gods did. This was huge. It's crazy to understand why that happened, but it did. But this came off from a marketing and promotion standpoint, from a hype standpoint, a major deal for this franchise, for this movie. Akira Toriyama did a outstanding job here. This is a movie that combines the retelling of stories from many of the original movies in Japan and TV specials that was released in Japan. Dragon Ball Super Broly creates a new direction with the purpose of bringing Broly into the Prime universe. Not only just Broly, but Gogeta as well. And that's not really talked about, but Gogeta is also now in the universe because he wasn't in the universe before. He was in the original 13 movies, which weren't a part of the Prime or canon. I'm trying not to use that term as much on this. I hate using that word sometimes. So pretentious. But it's normally the Gogeta character, which is, the fusion of Vegeta and Goku, was only seen one time in in what was that? What movie was that? It was Fusion Reborn. That's what it was. So we're seeing it actually as a part of the actual universe for the first time ever. And it was just absolutely stunning. I was in the theater. My wife was in the theater. And my wife, she knows by far, she knows what Dragon Ball is, especially around me. And she's heard of it so much times. Like, she's a Ronda Rousey fan, and she noticed Ronda Rousey also wears it as, and express her fandom for it as well. And she got to see firsthand the fans in the theater that were absolutely enjoying every bit of this movie for the first time. And I think she got an enjoyment out of that. It's kind of like when we went to San Diego Comic-Con and she got to experience that too. And, the hype and the fandom and everything. She gets immersed in all that as well. So let's talk about the story real quick. The movie starts off by going into the past, which shows King Cold and the Cold Force, which it was called at the time, visiting Vegeta, the planet Vegeta, to announce that King Cold is retiring and leaving the entire force to Frieza, and leaving it all in command of him, which will now be known as the Frieza Force. So we're seeing how all of that came about. And not only is he in charge of the Frieza Force also consists of the Saiyan command of all the Saiyans as well. So they pretty much got all of the Saiyans in some type of a, forced situation, a forced slavery situation. It really does come off of that. Especially, I don't mind, Frieza saying this because he is a bad guy anyway. But when he calls the monkey, I can't be the only black person in anywhere when they watch the show and watching them call the Saiyans monkey, because they are. but the way he says it is so condescending and almost, it really feels very racist when he says it. But he's a bad guy. So it makes sense for him to say that. And in return, he gets his ass handed to him so much. So, and it doesn't help that that Goku and the Saiyan race are, in fact, they do turn into great apes. So it doesn't help that at all. But he says it in such a really derogatory way. It's so bad. But nonetheless, he basically tells the entire, Frieza Force, I guess now at this point, that he's in command, that he's taking a role, that, this is the deal. Now, I'm going to mention this again probably in my later notes, but I want to point out that it also showed him revealing for the first time ever the Scouters, which, in fact, Frieza was the one who invented those. That I found, a lot of people when they were watching it were kind of gasping. It was like, whoa. Because the Scouters is a really big type of thing. I actually have a replica of that in my house. It's a really big deal. So to find out that he was the one that invented that, that's actually pretty damn cool to know that type of information. I can see that in a lot of trivia in the future with that one. And again, this is totally a part of the Prime Universe. Everything we see in this movie is legit connected to the original, to the actual series that's airing in Japan and airing on Cartoon Network right now. So, which by the way, we are at the Tournament of Power, and I can't wait. And this movie is just awesome because of that. Meanwhile, while they decided that, they go later on to see King Vegeta is checking on the progress of his son, who is supposed to be the most powerful of all Saiyans, that being baby Vegeta at the time. However, he is stumbled because he finds out that there may be one more baby in there that is so powerful that the scanners break whenever they attempt to read his child's level. And the kid is none other than Broly himself, the son of Paragus. And that's where things lead off to. The discovery does not bode well for the future of both, which leads to Broly being cast away to an uninhabited planet, probably there left to die, pretty much, because Vegeta's jealousy, pretty much. So Paragus eventually realizes Vegeta's jealousy and chases after the pod, which was already shot out as he was talking to Paragus. And this leads Paragus to chasing after his son and bringing a Saiyan along with him that didn't want to go at first, but he just like, screw it, let's go. And they start pursuing the his son and everything. Come to find out, not only are they stranded in this planet, they have nothing to eat. So what does Paragus do? He kills the other Saiyan and use them as food. It's just savage, man. So it's not until years later, because they end up being in this planet and surviving in this planet for years, killing whatever monsters there, and just living the wildlife pretty much. In the meantime, Broly has been living like a Paleolithic Neanderthal throughout the time, and Paragus has no way of really raising his son, or doesn't know how to raise his son properly. Instead, his solution is to treat him more like a pet or a rescue dog. He puts a shock collar on him to control him. So they end up surviving for years on end, only for years later until the new members of the Frieza Force, in particular one named Limo and another one named Chile, finds the two and brings them back to Frieza after these years later. When Frieza discovers them, and finds out about that he decides, that they are powerful enough, he has a plan to take them to Earth to not only fight, but kill off Goku and Vegeta and just probably find a way to destroy the entire planet. So he's using both of them for that whole entire thing. So this is the whole story of that premise. And now you got Broly. You have now a actual reason for Broly and Goku to fight. So there lies the particular storyline for this movie, which is a bit of a contrast and retelling of some of what all Dragon Ball fans know. With that said, Akira Toriyama outdid himself writing, with the writing, the screenplay, the character direction of this movie. Everything felt like a truly evolved version of this universe, which is what the entire series is about, and it's all about evolution here. So the fact that he was able to do that as well is awesome. Everything from the animation, the storytelling, the character development felt like it matured into something that celebrated all the years that we enjoyed this franchise. So, I mean, they just went all out for this movie. I mean, even a marketing strategy, and I didn't realize this before, and I should have watched all these movies, because I actually own them. I wouldn't have gone to the movies to see them, but I should have watched just not. Didn't realize what direction they were going to go or how they were doing this, but there was a method to their madness. If any of you guys ever know, I know our A.C.M.G members know, because we sent posts saying that they were going to do this, but not really knowing the reason why and why these select movies that they were choosing. So, to prepare for the upcoming movie, Funimation sponsored the Dragon Ball North American Tour 2018, which with Bandai Collectibles. So, the purpose of this was to allow people to show the non-previous movies, which weren't connected to the actual Dragon Ball Z universe, or they weren't canon. It's the only time I'll say that again. They weren't exactly canon to the actual Dragon Ball Z universe. So they were just separate, almost, you could kind of say, fictional fanfare stories, just from another universe, or what now they're saying the Xenoverse, according to the video games. So, you know, they're connected, but not in the same way that you think. So they have these 3 movies that they allowed you to see, and that one of them was Broly, the Legendary Super Saiyan. You know, of course, to get you hyped up for the movie. That's what I thought. That's what many people thought. They also showed Bardock, the father of Goku. All right, bet this was one of a lot of people's favorites. They also showed Fusion Reborn. That was one of my favorites in the theater. So I'm like, all right, bet they showing all these for a reason. That's awesome. People get to see it in the theaters for the first time ever in the U.S. That's fine. Unbeknownst to us as fans, when we finally go get to see this movie, that all 3 of those movies would be adapted and, you know, assimilated into this new movie, telling a whole new story that combines the stories of all 3 of those movies. That to me was that's fantastic. I love it. So when fans finally get to see this movie, they realize what they were doing. I didn't even go to the movies to see it, or I haven't seen any of those movies in years, but I automatically picked up on what they were doing and recognized the story of Bardock, and recognized when Gogeta came in for the first time, and recognized how the story of Broly all kicked into one, and they managed to make it all work together in one great story. Akira Toriyama absolutely knocked it out the park here. So what I want to do, for those who may not know, there's a lot of differences to the original story and to the new story. So I do want to bring that up too. One of which I didn't add on to these notes is that Goku and Broly's hatred, which was stemmed from birth, that was totally taken out of this story here. That's no longer a part of that story. They met for the first time only when they met in person with Frieza. From right there. So that's one of them. Another one is Broly and Paragus got killed by King Vegeta. That was the original story. They killed the baby, and they killed the father and stranded them away and shipped them out of Vegeta into this another uninhabited planet, but they were supposed to be dead. They managed to stay alive, and not only that, years later, they set up Vegeta to come to this planet to try to make it new Vegeta. And Vegeta not really knowing what would happen in that planet. So he wind up, you know, they set him up, and Goku became the problem with it, because Broly had a hatred for Goku since they were babies. And that just kind of came into now. That caused Broly to be the Broly that we all knew at the time from the movie. In the new story, King Vegeta sent Broly to an uninhabited planet so he wouldn't become a threat. So he was still alive. They never tried to kill him, but they just shipped him away because they didn't want him to, you know, and he never got the advanced technology and intelligence that the Saiyans had in that planet. So he suffered from that, even though his father could have at least told him how to communicate or act or whatever like that. But he realized that he was also unstable. King Vegeta at some point also was threatened by that too. Not just the fact that he may be more powerful than his son, but he may be a chaotic threat to the planet. A part of it has to do with nurturing. that I totally believe. another original and new story here is Bardock received powers of a clairvoyant, seeing Frieza destroying the planet. That was the original story of Bardock, an alien that they destroyed and took over the planet to sell, because that's what they used to do. They were pirates, pretty much, the Saiyan race. They wound up actually taking over this planet, and one alien was left alive just shortly, but gave Bardock the ability to see the future. So that led to him discovering that Frieza was actually going to destroy the planet, and he was trying to find a way to stop it. So Bardock, if you guys don't realize, Bardock is Jor-El from Superman, pretty much. There's no doubt about it. Just like Frieza is Lex Luthor and Brainiac combined in this case. So you had that situation there. The new movie shows that Bardock using critical thinking instead of having the clairvoyancy abilities that he had in the original movie. Here he's just using his critical thinking, and which gives him and his wife the decision. Which, by the way, for the first time ever, his wife is on an animated. Goku's mother is on an animated movie or anything. She was in a manga series before, and they showed her, but for the first time ever, they decided to actually finally bring her in to the universe. So, which was awesome. So they had a discussion. They decided that they're going to send off Goku before King Vegeta figures out that he has latent abilities as well, which may supersede Vegeta, and ship him off before they give him before they select a planet for him to go on, because they saw what he did with Broly. So he wound up on Earth, and that's what all happened there. Now, interesting here. I got to watch this movie again to really see what happened, but they had a little, subtitle showing the age of the time when all of that happened to the recent story, the recent part of the present story here. And it says 783. I don't know if that's the actual year or that's the actual age of Goku and Vegeta right now, who are possibly 700 something years old. That is going to be something that we're going to figure out later on when they start talking about things. I thought that was interesting. New story here also. King Vegeta did not want any newborns Saiyans to have latent abilities other than his son, which is not really a new thing, I point out, but the way he handled it was kind of new. Like, he would automatically kill him, and here he just shipped him out. So that was a whole new thing too, the way he handled that situation. I guess that's why I put the notes there. The other note also, something to note here, is also Broly in the original movie, he didn't have a Paleolithic Neanderthal type of persona like Bubba Duck from DuckTales, pretty much, because that's what he kind of is like right now in this movie. But he was just shy. He just came off as very shy and subtle, and he wouldn't say anything to his father. But if he gets pissed off, it's almost hard to stop him. But in the new movie, he's lacking the ability of completely articulate sentences or at any time think for himself. And that's where Limo and Chile come out and realize this, and she ends up stealing the actual shock collar controller, which may or may not have been a good idea, depending on who looks at it. So the other thing too is Paracus controlling Broly. This was very interesting too, because in the original movie, he actually had a sustaining headband that controlled him mentally, neurologically, if anything happened. But this new one, I almost kind of like the way they did this here. Paracus used a shock collar to, on his own son, which sounds like he's controlling a dog, which is really inhumane in a sense, how he's controlling him. But, Limo and Chile did not like the way that he was handling it. That's why he took the shock collar. Broly became so powerful in the original movie that he was able to destroy a planet with just one tiny energy ball. But in this movie, he's not yet reaching that level. And they kind of show it because he's blasting all types of, energy balls out there, which should have destroyed the planet by now, but it didn't happen. Not only that, Frieza kills Paracus' father in this new movie, but in the old movie, it was Broly that killed his father. because his father figured out that he was too uncontrollable to have, and he decided, like, look, let me ship out of here. This plane is about to die and blow up. I'm leaving. And Brawly end up catching up with him and end up crushing him and destroying him and throwing him out anyway. So he kills his own father in here. But in the new movie, which I found very interestingly funny in some cases, because Frieza winds up killing Paragus in order to get Brawly more upset, thinking that it was a stray shot that Goku hit with his father when it was in fact Frieza did. That's such a Lex Luthor thing to do. I mean, in the way he did it, it was really kind of funny the way he did it. Like, everybody in the theater was like, yo, that is savage as hell. So, I guess the last thing I have, the last noticeable, original and new, Brawly eventually was killed by Goku in the original story. At least once or twice, because there were 3 movies with Brawly in there, and they kind of destroyed him 3 different times. He somehow survived. But he basically tried to kill Goku. I mean, Goku tried to kill him because he was too powerful. And he only did so in Super Saiyan level 1. In the new movie, Brawly remains alive, and not only alive, but an ally with Goku, who also fought him at Super Saiyan Blue level. And which means Brawly is going to be returning to the show as possibly an ally to the group now. So that's going to be extremely interesting here, and I really appreciate what they did in that note. Other thoughts and great moments that I liked, Frieza being added to the movie was just fantastic, because these movies weren't connected to him. He never met Brawly. He only met Bardock one time, but he's never seen Gogeta before either. And having all those elements in was fantastic. But Frieza, man, there was a lot of great moments and funny moments with Frieza in there. I mean, although my theory that he was going to become another good guy in the series after the fight at the end fight at Tournament of Power, it's totally wrong in this case, because after you watch this movie, he is just as cutthroat, dangerous, treacherous, and still as funny as ever in here. But the dynamic between him and there may be still time, because there were times when Piccolo was in the original movies, and they teamed up together, but they wound up being friends too, and they kind of left off in an interesting way in the movie too. So we'll see how that goes. But also note that they reveal, oh yeah, I already talked about this too, so I don't need to talk about it anymore. But his betrayal and his was so funny. There were so many great moments. One of the funniest moments here was that both Bulma and Frieza wanted the Dragon Balls for the most selfish, superficial reasons at all costs. Bulma wanted to be 5 years younger, which would have just been enough for her to let people know that she looks great. On the other hand, Frieza's looking for the Dragon Balls to become normally 5 centimeters taller, which is just enough for people to realize that he is still growing. And the way that they put that together. Now, interesting thing about that scene is that I was wondering if, in fact, was that actually set up by American ADR. And if you guys don't know, ADR is the process where the actors have to rewrite some of the lines to fit the American dialogue. So if they say one thing in Japan, sometimes they could get away with saying the same thing in America, but there are other times they have to go into ADR and try to actually rewrite the scene or the line just to fit the format of, to reach American audience dialogue. And the Funimation cast has all done that so well. They've always done it so well. That's why I love the American, voice dubs of it all, and the actors that are involved in it. They do a phenomenal job with that. And the actors that have been doing it for so many years, they're so used to doing all this at this point. So I hopefully that's a line right there that they made. I'm probably going to have to watch the Japanese version with the subtitles to see if that was going to be the same line that they did or not, but it was awesome. It was absolutely a great moment there. Barris becoming a babysitter. He's been demoted to babysitting at this point. Like, he's the new Piccolo. Remember when Battle of the Gods came out and he was supposed to be the most baddest dude on the planet, the most revered dude? As time went by and the more powerful Goku and Vegeta has gotten, they have been demoted so badly. All of the gods of destruction have been demoted so badly thanks to people like Jiren and Goku and many others, man. It's a shame, but it's funny to see. I've grown to love Barris. Wasn't feeling it when Battle of Gods first came out, but it all makes sense now, and he's one of my favorite characters. He's hilarious. And now the fact that he's so much a family member to the actual crew that he is now babysitting for them is amazing. It was just amazing to see. One of those great moments. Then we got of course, we can't talk about this movie without talking about the insanely epic fight scene, which was without a doubt one of Akira Toriyama's best. That's what this man is actually known for. That's what brought everybody to the table, the fight scenes. It's partially the reason why many of us became fans of this series first. It drew us in, and then we found out there was much more depth and dimension to this movie and to the series. But there is no fight scene in anime or in the Dragon Ball Z series or in maybe even movies that will measure up to this fight. Since then, we have seen many American attempts of this, especially from DC Animation, of course, which does a very good job. I'll point out the recent Death of Superman was a great fight scene, like insane, and also added to the point of what else? Batman vs Superman Apocalypse was a great fight scene as well. But they were all inspired by what Akira Toriyama has done for this movie. I mean, for any of the movies in the fighting in the series. Dragon Ball has been an inspiration, and the Matrix, for that matter. Matrix Revolution, that fight scene was Dragon Ball inspired as well. But man, the fight scene, which had to be way over a half hour of nonstop, and I can tell you for myself, I absolutely enjoyed it. My wife, I can tell you right now, she looked at it and was like, wow, they're still fighting. And I'm like, yeah, honestly, this is normal. For any of us who watch it, this is normal. This is only 5 episodes crammed up into one. Because sometimes it takes about like 5 episodes for them to win a damn fight. So this was just all that crammed up into one. And I enjoyed it. And the crowd enjoyed it because they were getting excited and hype. I enjoyed it almost the same to I guess I could say that maybe this is not a word or not, a culturalist, I guess. Forgot I was going to say I was going to look up that word, but if it's not a word, I'm making it a word. Much of that word is like when culturalists go to see the opera or a ballet. That's what this reminded me of going to see a ballet or an opera, and I've been to both, and really appreciating what I was seeing. Really appreciating the artistry, the animation, the intensity, the impact, the characters involved in it. It's just absolutely non-stop action. Absolutely from start to finish. Man, it was just amazing. The fight alone was like such a back and forth fight that can only be compared, if you're a mixed martial arts fan, and in particular a UFC fan, only could be compared to Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner at the first ever UFC Ultimate Fighter times 20. Because if Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner could fly, my God, that could be a whole nother fight right there. So, I mean, the art style was superb. It was it really provided the old school hand-drawn style, which made many fans fall in love with the genre. In particular, this one, kind of the outline shading of the art of the character design looked a lot like Megalobox. If you guys have seen that, and I've reviewed that a while back, that has the same type of old school hand-drawn art style as well. Beautifully done. It just really, I need for Japan to go back into that hand-drawn style, because that was ahead of our time. In 86 and all that stuff. That was a way ahead of our time, what they were doing. And it's still state-of-the-art right now. So thanks to animation director Naohiro Shintani and CG director Kai Makani. I mean, they were just successful at creating a look and feel that none of us not only assimilated well, but together just superseded all expectations across the board. Normally, you kind of see when you watch certain anime, I think I'll give you an example, maybe Godzilla. The CG sticks out.
like a sore thumb and not in the right way. It doesn't just blend in with what you're seeing. You could tell that things are CG and all the stuff. And in this movie, they went to no expense and they made sure everything just was fluid. Absolutely fluid here. And I absolutely loved that when I saw that. And lastly, of course, the American voice actors, it would just, as always, top notch. I've talked about it before, but returning actors, Sean Shamylan and Christopher Sabat, and just performed so greatly here, as they always do. I mean, they're just so comfortable with the role right now. We got to see Goku, Vegeta, and Piccolo, and this along with Bulma and Barris and Whis and some of the others. I mean, surprisingly, it just had there was not nearly as many characters as I thought was going to be in here. They really only focused on just Broly, Goku, Vegeta, and who was it? And Frieza with the sub characters of Limo, Chile, and Baragus. I mean, other than that, it's like everybody else, and Bulma and all those two were there too. But everything else was just like the main characters was that it. And I'm really surprised because normally we see like almost everybody in these movies, and they're doing something, adding on to it. And especially because the original Broly movie, Gohan was in it, like Trunks was in it, and Piccolo was in it. And they all got their ass whooped by Broly at the same time. So it's really interesting they decided to like put them out for now. And I'm assuming that hopefully they'll be into one of the newer movies if we see another one come out. But with the success of this, they got to make another one. Even if they don't, you know what? I don't mind. This was just a great celebration of everything that we loved about the series and why this is the top animated series in Japan, bar none. I mean, this has brought anime into the mainstream unlike what anybody even dreamed of. And some denied. There were people who actually thought that anime was not going to be a big deal and wasn't going to be mainstream. No, this is officially it, and they've done a big job. Since then, I've heard so many people make Dragon Ball references and rap songs and comedy shows just recently, especially. And this is it. This is totally it. We finally got to be able to celebrate this genre to the world of casuals and hardcore. So this is awesome. If you have not seen Dragon Ball Super Broly, go out of your way to check it out. Find a way to go see that movie. It is absolutely phenomenal. Vic Mignogna did a tremendous job. And by the way, love this. Vic Mignogna has spoken more lines in the role of Broly for this movie than he has in almost any other movie that he's ever done as this character. I know he's done a bunch of video game characters and all this stuff, but this right here was the most. So hopefully, like I said, we get to see him again, and it's awesome. He did a great job as well. Phenomenal job is actually too. So again, people, if you haven't heard the interview with myself and Broly himself, Vic Mignogna, also the voice of Edward Elric and Vega from Street Fighter 2V and many other voices, many other voices, freaking legend in the world of anime. Go out of your way to check it out. Go to talktimelive.com/exclusives. He's on the top. You'll see him right there. I'm going to be adding more interviews, by the way, both on Podbean as well as the exclusive page. So bear with me. It's going to come. I got to put up Ruben Langdon's interview back up. He's got to be back on the show too when Devil May Cry comes back out. So stay tuned for that one and more. And as well as Daisy Lightfoot and Matt Papa, who was supposed to be on last week, but his schedule got up too much, so we're going to try to make it this week and see what happens from there. But go out of your way to check it out. It's all there. Thank you guys so very much. This has been a great episode of Talk Time Live, the Prime Show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Tomorrow, like I said, we're going to review The Punisher. We're going to talk about how this series ends, if it's ever going to continue, and we'll see. But I'm telling you now, this is, if you haven't seen The Punisher, go out of your way to see it. I've seen all but the last 15 minutes of it. So after this, I'm going to check out the rest of the film, talk about it tomorrow, as well as any other news that pops up out of nowhere. And we'll continue going on. We'll be talking Select Start next week. We got 3 games that we're going to be talking about, as well as news going on from there. And whatever else comes in the next week, we're going to be talking about as well. So stay tuned for all that and much more. Thank you, everybody. Please check us out on TalkTimeLive.com, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play, and Podbean if you are into that as well. You are all there all week with new stuff, new graphics, everything. We're going to keep it going and keep it growing at all times. So everybody, thank you so much for the support. Keep it going and keep it growing. With that said, this is Dak Xavier Josiah saying, learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is ACMG Presents Talk Time Live. I am out of here. Talk to you soon. Episode of ACMG Presents Talk Time Live is brought to you in part by Viewfinder's Identity Search and Design. Your choice for web design, graphic design, and all multimedia development needs. Visit VFISAD.com and let us bring your vision to reality.